to travel and things in association with rugged wear, real people, real clothing, real solutions, presents In Conversation With. I am your host, David Batsoffen, and today I'm joined, I think for the first time, by a guest from KwaZulu-Natal, and that's John Roff. John, good morning. Welcome to you.
Hi, good to be here.
Firstly, what is it like in KZN today?
Right now, it's super hot. It's going to go to about 35, and then tomorrow it's going to drop to 19, and we'll have rain on the weekend.
Okay, which means we get it up here in Johannesburg probably on Monday or Tuesday. Thank you so very much for that. John, what is it that you do? I know I found you, it sounds so weird, I found you on the internet. It's not like I was trolling for geologists, but you popped up and what you do looks really interesting. And I've never spoken to anybody about this particular subject outside of Gauteng or the Lowveld. So how different is the geology down in KZN? And what do you do to promote it?
Well, the geology here it's significantly different. There's a huge variation in terms of time, in terms of kinds of rocks, and in terms of the kinds of stories that those rocks tell. There's these basement granites. There's the Drakensberg Mountains and all these amazing sedimentary layers that sit underneath the top of the Drakensberg. Further north of the Tugela River, there's these ancient rocks that kind of record the story of the very first continental crust in the world. And all of that's right here in this province. So it's very rich.
So then the rocks that you're finding, or the layers that you're finding in the Drakensberg down in KZN, would that be the same sort of information, for want of a better term, that I could find if I climbed the Drakensberg up here in the Lowveld, for instance?
No, they're quite different kinds of rocks, actually. The formation stories are very different. The Drakensberg in KZN and that form Lesotho really are quite recent.
And when you say recent, what, 20 million rather than 100 million?
Yeah, I'm wary of using these long ages because they can put people off. But to give it some sense of perspective, let's say that length of time is the history of the Earth. Then those ones in the Lowveld are about here, and this is the present day. And the Drakensberg in KZN is about here.
Oh, okay. So they are very
vast difference. Yeah. The Drakensberg Mountains are only about 180 million years old. The Drakensberg in the Lowveld are around 2 billion.
Wow. Okay. The rocks in our government, both talking in billions. That and David Davies, who always used to refer to the stars. There are billions and billions of stars. So what got you interested in rocks? I mean, if I go back to John in high school, John in matric, what did John in matric want to be?
I saw a future where I was outside, I was doing research, and I was feeling free, I suppose. And what's emerged since that time is loving to do research, loving to be outside, and continuing to do research of all kinds to do with the natural world, and then sharing that. So for me, the journey has been very much around discovery and then sharing.
So it's not only rocks, because I tried years ago, I started a field guide course, and one of the first field trips that we went on was a geological trip. And our lecturer was getting all excited about stuff, and I was going, really? And we had to bag and tag stuff, and I came back with, I don't know, shoe boxes full of stuff that lay in a drawer for years, and then I just tossed them. I never did anything with them.
Yeah, David, I have a whole range of specializations. I'm a professional nature guide.
Okay.
So I'm taking people into wild places, for different lengths of time. And we can look at spiders, we'll look at trees, a basic botany course that I offer.
Right.
General guided walks, we'll look at wildflowers. I always include ecology in the work that I do. I try to paint a broader picture. So why do the plants look like this? Why do the animals behave like this? And then the geology kind of underpins that. And I always try to tell stories with whatever I'm doing. I try to connect the place and the things that we encounter with the people through story.
But then I have to share, now I'm going to try and find it again. I have to share this image with the viewers. What is this? The Pied Piper of KZN?
Okay, so I'm a musician.
Right.
And I find that music has a way of kind of reaching past the part of our brain that's trying to think and figure things out all the time, and it sort of connects more directly with the emotions and the heart and builds a connection with place.
Right.
So on that particular occasion, I'm making music for those people, and you'll notice that I'm not the center of attention, that it's almost as though the landscape is the setting for the music, and making that music in that place helps the people connect more deeply with the place itself.
The guy behind you in the green shirt looks amazingly like David Evans. I'm not sure if it is though.
I don't think so.
Oh.
I don't think so. And I also sorry, carry on.
No. I was going to say, and you very cleverly took a penny whistle. You didn't sort of take a cello or a double bass or something like that, where you'd have to schlep it halfway up the mountain.
Yeah. So what I also like to do is consider, what are those instruments made of? In other words, how do our lives connect to the material itself? So I've got an instrument with me. It's a kalimba, and I'm going to play it. And it's made of steel, and it's made of keyart wood, and the combination, well, I think it makes for interesting sounding music. So let's see what you think.
Okay, this is a first for Travel and Things, just as a matter of interest.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoy this.
Thank you.
Can you see this, David?
Yes, I can, very clearly.
Okay.
That is seriously beautiful. I have seen those instruments before. I've heard Professor Andrew Tracy wax lyrical about those, but that particular tuning that you've got on there reminds me so much of running water and just walking next to a stream and watching it trickle past me. It's beautiful. And that's what it's used for, if I'm not mistaken. It's used for when people are walking out in the bush and they may be by themselves and they just want to have something a little different with them.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the uses. There's a whole range of ceremonial uses as well, and I like to use it it certainly helps calm people down.
It does indeed. I almost fell asleep.
Exactly. Well, that would be an honor. I find that beauty in many forms actually it moves people, and I like to start with beauty as a guide. The beauty of a rock. To me, rocks are beautiful. Music is beautiful. Landscapes are beautiful. So you start with the thing that touches the emotions of the person, and then you kind of build the story from there.
Yeah. What sort of people come on these, can I call them excursions of yours? Outings?
Yeah. Well, I work quite a bit with pensioners, so folk who retired, and you've got the time to take a slow stroll looking at interesting rocks. I work with school children, and a complete range of ages of adults, university students, people my sort of age, 50s, really a complete range. And there's different ways of engaging those people depending on who they are and their knowledge levels, but all of them, I think, receive something special. Yeah.
Throughout your years, have you sort of been walking, I don't know, maybe you've just gone out for a walk by yourself and something has caught your eye and it's turned into a huge find for you, specifically from a geological point of view, and that you've gone, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's lots of those. And I'm not a trained geologist. My training's been in environmental education and nature guiding.
Right.
So I come to geology as an educator. So that means that there are lifetimes of work that have already been done. I'll find an interesting rock, and then I start asking questions, and I meet the researchers who spent their entire life working on that group of rocks. So I'm discovering cool stuff all the time. I brought something here. I've got quite a few rocks, but this
oh, those, I've seen those before. Those are stunning. They really and truly are.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear you use the word stunning referring to a rock. That's a good start.
I've been on guided walks with Lee Guttridge and his fiance with Kirsty, and you can't not refer to a rock as stunning after you've been with Lee. Really and truly.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So this here, you can see the lines, David. Okay, so those kind of those crinkly, they're called crinkly laminations.
Right.
And this is it's a fossil.
Okay.
It's a type of fossil of these single-celled organisms that were living really long ago, and their remains make up quite a big chunk of the Great Escarpment, the Drakensberg in the Lowveld.
Okay.
And those organisms were producing huge amounts of oxygen long ago, which changed the Earth's atmosphere and basically mean that you and I can be here now. Because
to mess it up, to go back to being microorganisms.
Well, maybe we can fix it.
Possibly not in our lifetime, John. That's the unfortunate thing.
Yeah.
We're going to have to leave that for future generations, or AI bots who will go out and fix up the mess that we've created. But now you see, you've shown me that, and I've seen it because I've been out on other guided walks. But your regular Joe would just walk past those. You know, I've always joked when I've gone out with people and they pick up a rock because it's nice and tactile, and then they toss it away. And I always go, but hang on a second. That rock has taken millennia to get to where it was. And in one split second, you have set it back thousands of years. That poor thing is going to have to creep through the ages all over again to get back to where it was.
Yeah.
Or are rocks not sentient beings?
The jury's out on that one. To me, there's a certain rocks and certain places, big granite copies for me.
Yeah.
I've got a kind of presence about them that there's a sense of respect there almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you look at Ayers Rock although it's not called that anymore, in the middle of Australia, those type. Do we have places like that here in Southern Africa, in KwaZulu-Natal, that engender that sort of respect? Does the Drakensberg, for instance, engender that sort of respect with local populations?
So near where I live, there's the Valley of 1,000 Hills.
Of course, yes.
So down in that valley is a huge granite outcrop called Isitumba. And it's this massive, massive single chunk of granite. Not really a chunk because it's rounded.
Mm.
Almost reminiscent of the Matobo Hills in Zimbabwe.
Okay.
I don't know if you've been there.
I have, long ago, but
Yeah.
I have climbed there.
But the same sense of vastness, the same sense of the places almost have a gravity about them. So that would certainly be one of those.
Now, you mentioned earlier that your excursions, that your walks, you go with pensioners, you go with school children. Does that mean that the walks are not technical? You're not going out for hours and hours and hours. It's lots of information, but short distance. You know, you may be out for 3 or 4 hours, but the distance that you cover may only be a kilometer or two, if that.
Yeah. There's certainly plenty of walks like that. The focus is not on a route march. My purpose is really to engender a sense of wonder and to build these connections to help people learn and discover a place.
Right.
And if the group that I'm working with are going to experience that through pushing hard for a few Ks to get to the top of a ridge where we get a great view, then that's what I'll do with them. But usually I'm doing shorter distances and stopping and looking all the time. And, you know, we might have a geology focus, but somebody's going to find a scorpion under a rock, and there's always something interesting to look at. Yeah.
This is what people forget, is that without, you know, everybody rushes off to go and see the big five because that's a marketing ploy. It always has been and it always will be. And in fact, if you speak to international guests, as I do quite often, and you go, do you know the origin of the big five? And they go, yeah, because they're scary type of thing. And I go, no, you have no idea where it came from, did you? But you looked that up. But now I think people are becoming more aware that without as a fellow in Kruger National Park years ago used to refer to them as the hochokis and nunakis that run around under the rocks and that chew up the grass to provide mulch and that type of thing. The big five wouldn't exist. So you need, as you said earlier, John, to start virtually at ground level and look at what is there first in order for the big five or any of the bigger game to be there for us to enjoy.
Yeah, well, to me, it's all about this this web of connections and helping people grasp that.
Yeah. So what sort of walks how do people find out about you as to connect with you, what's coming up? Because, you know, we're now towards the end of we're at the beginning of 2023. So what's lined up for the first quarter of the year?
Yeah. So, David, I have a website through which people can just get a sense of what I'm doing.
Right.
And then an emailing list. So I send out a list of activities that I'm up to. And those activities are in KZN.
Okay.
But I'm very flexible and eager to work in Mpumalanga and Limpopo provinces in particular, doing geology safaris, I'm calling them. So joining up with groups, giving a kind of geology flavor to a guided experience. And if folk can contact me about that, if they want to set it up, I'm eager to develop partnerships with other guides, with lodges, places who are interested in hearing the story of the rocks being told and shared with guests. Yeah,
that sounds like it could be the title of your book, The Story of the Rocks. We know where you were last millennia. Things like corporate events, do you do those? Have you been approached, you know, by a company to say, listen, we're having a company day, come and tell us some stories, come and bring some rocks, come and play your instruments to keep us nice and peaceful and quiet?
I have actually. I did something like that a couple of weeks ago. I called it a rock concert.
I'm sure there were upset people who were expecting heavy metal bands.
Yeah, there were some, but I hopefully wooed them over. yeah, a range of rocks telling their interesting stories, and then playing a selection of musical instruments from around the world, and telling the stories of those as well.
You said you had other rocks with you. Have you got something,
Yes.
another one close by that you can share with us, and maybe a story about that?
I do. So this is a little piece of, can you see there's a gray kind
Yes.
of matrix, and then embedded in it are darker bits?
Yes.
Okay. So this is volcanic ash, and it's basically what's left after a volcano explodes, and this rain of ash comes down, and bits of rock are shooting into the air, solidifying up in the air, raining down. It's complete chaos. And I wanted to try to paint the picture using some of Tolkien's language. So
Okay.
I've got the Lord of the Rings here, and I'm going to read from just near the end of the Lord of the Rings. If anybody listening here is familiar with the story, the ring has just been thrown into the furnaces of Mount Doom and has been melted and destroyed, and so Sauron's kingdom is falling apart. And part of that is this volcano erupting. So this is the kind of environment that this rock
would have come from.
Tuff. It's called Tuff, Tuff.
Okay.
And this is the kind of environment. Frodo and Sam could go no further. Their last strength of mind and body was swiftly ebbing. They had reached a low, ashen hill piled at the mountain's foot, but from it there was no more escape. All about it the earth gaped, and from deep rifts and pits, smoke and fumes leapt up. Behind them the mountain was convulsed. Great rents opened in its side. Rivers of fire came down the long slopes towards them. Soon they would be engulfed. A rain of hot ash was falling.
You've got to wonder about something. I've been to Pompeii, and I've seen what happened there. It's quite amazing, and what has survived. And now in Hawaii, or last year in Hawaii, their volcano erupted again, but it didn't seem to be too bad. It seems to have been contained for some reason or another. We don't have active volcanoes in southern Africa. People don't realize that Kilimanjaro was in fact, or is in fact, a volcano and still active, although it hasn't erupted for a while. Where to from, aside from that, your favorite walk? Do you have a favorite area that, if pushed, you'd go back there again and again and again because of what you found, or how you felt, or how your guests have felt while you've been there?
Yeah, at the moment, and these things do change depending on where I spend time, but there's a place called Babanongo Game Reserve. It's a new game reserve in the sort of northern central KZN, and the White Mfolozi River flows through there.
Okay.
And along that river is the most beautifully preserved sequence of these ancient rocks that record the environment and the way that the land was being formed on Earth's first stable continental crust. And you find amazing stuff there. I've got one here.
Can you then, with that, oh, look at that. I mean, with that in mind, can you read rocks like hieroglyphics, basically?
Not all of them.
Yeah.
Certain rocks tell their stories quite easily. Other rocks are very hard to figure out.
It's like human beings.
Yeah.
I was about to say, then there have to be male rocks and female rocks, because female rocks we will never understand.
David, again, the jury is out.
You can take the fifth if you want to, John. I don't want you to alienate your potential customers. Do you find that people tend to come back again and again because they've been out on one, they've enjoyed it so much, they'll come back so that you can take them to a different place? And tell them different things, and then they go away and share that with their friends and families.
Yeah, I've definitely found that. Yeah, so I'll do a walk in a particular game reserve, and we'll look at, let's say, sandstones, and people are kind of people are taken with that and become interested, and then I can take them into some granites. We can look at those formations. There's some amazing stuff on the coast here in KZN. So I've had people come several times, and just kind of drink it in, really. And each time you're building the story a bit more deeply.
Do you find then that people will arrive on a walk? They've been with you before, and they arrive and they've got rocks to come and share with you that they may have found, you know, at some particular point, and are all excited about. And then you can tell them the story of the rock, or go, no, it's actually not that at all. Somebody's just painted it and tossed it in your garden type of thing.
Yeah, I love doing that, actually. And people bring me all sorts of things, not just rocks. And usually I'm able to help the person gain some deeper understanding. But people will bring me something, and I can find a story that's going to make it more interesting to them. I quite often get invited to people's houses to look at rocks, and rocks from all over the world, actually.
Really?
And some you can figure out, some you can't. Here's one that a friend brought me. Looks from like Kathmandu.
Wow. John,
we found it in a river there.
That's stunning. We're just about out of time. So I'm going to have to say thank you so very much. Give us your website details once more.
johnroff.co.za.
Great stuff. John, thank you so very much for joining me here on In Conversation With. If you're ever down in KZN, people, look him up. I'm sure he will tell you stories and play you music that will bring tears to your eyes and wonderment to your heart. John, once again, thank you for being a guest on In Conversation With.
Cheers.